And it will be transitory.
These inflation rises will be transitory, that they will come back down next year. Inflation is going to come down next year. Inflation will come down next year.
Talk of inflation. The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down.
People fully expect this inflation to be temporary.
There's nobody suggesting there's unchecked inflation on the way. No serious economist.
The president's Build Back Better agenda as a whole will ease some of that inflationary pressure.
The bipartisan infrastructure deal and Build Back Better agenda could likely ease inflationary pressures.
It will ease longer-term inflationary pressures.
We're going to ease inflationary pressure.
I don't think that these investments will drive up inflation at all.
Build Back Better will not increase inflation.
The overall Build Back Better vision is designed to reduce inflationary pressures.
I have 17 Nobel laureates in economics sent me a letter recently saying that my proposals would actually reduce inflation.
17 Nobel laureate economists said that if we passed both of these plans, we would reduce inflation.
17 Nobel laureates in economics said it's going to lower inflation.
17 Nobel Prize winners in economics.
17 Nobel Prize winning economists.
17 Nobel laureates.
A total of 14, I think it was 14, Nobel laureate economists.
Since it is paid for, it would not increase inflation.
Wages have gone up higher, faster than inflation.
Monthly rates of inflation have already fallen substantially.
If we pass the other two things I'm trying to get done, we will in fact reduce inflation. Reduce inflation. Reduce inflation.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. We welcome back to the show UCLA economist Lee Ohanian. Professor, as always, thank you so much for coming on.
Larry, it's good to join you.
How does it sound to be referred to as a not serious economist?
Well, politics is just such a wonderful thing. Interestingly enough, putting aside, partisan issues, because all of those Nobel laureates that signed that letter months ago. They're all left-leaning. I know some of them pretty well. And none of them said or predicted that inflation now or next year or the year after that, none of them made any expectation about Biden's program having an impact on inflation over the next few years. They were talking about 10 years from now, way, way, way beyond the Biden administration. So that's really a disingenuous use of that letter. And the idea that simply spending money is going to bring down inflation is just silly. I mean, it is just the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Professor, when Joe Biden says no serious economist believes yada blah, et cetera, what is your reaction when you hear that?
Well, it's politics, and it is grossly inaccurate. I mean, people within the Federal Reserve System, there's over 500 or 600 PhD economists throughout the Fed. I mean, they're the ones who are now predicting higher inflation next year. So I don't think he really means to indicate that 600 or 700 of government-employed PhD economists who are experts in this area are not serious. I hope he's not saying that. He's a politician who is trying just his absolute hardest to try to dig himself out of a political hole that he has put himself into, relating to how the economy is managed relative to COVID, relating to the horrible withdrawal from Afghanistan, relating to the fact that economic growth is not coming back, not nearly as much as he had hoped for. So this really is a subterfuge. It's a smokescreen. He's just trying his darndest to get this to get a victory and get this passed. Right now, the way it stands, the way it's set up, I hope it doesn't pass.
Mm-hmm. My guest is economics professor Lee Ohanian from UCLA. He made a couple of assertions. There were a couple of assertions made in that montage, rather. One of them is wages are rising faster than inflation, Joe Biden said. True or false, Professor?
Well, they're not. They're not. Right now, inflation at the consumer level is rising 5.5% per year, and the prices that businesses are paying for their inputs into the products they're building is rising at 8.5% per year. So I don't know what numbers he is referring to. Wages are not growing at that level.
Secretary of State Secretary Treasury Janet Yellen in that montage said that in recent times inflation actually is falling. Is it falling?
No, it's not falling. The numbers we are seeing are the highest numbers in decades. 5.5% is more than double the target for the Federal Reserve, and at the producer purchasing level, 8.5% is 4 times the target for the Federal Reserve. This is a failure. And these numbers, the numbers I'm referring to, are numbers that were released just a month ago. So again, I just don't know what they're referring to.
The $1.2 trillion so-called infrastructure plan that was passed by the House, clearly Joe Biden is going to sign it. He can't wait to sign it. They're just trying now to make sure enough people are standing behind him as he signs it. They're arranging that, but he's clearly going to sign it. What will that do to inflation?
Well, I mean, immediately it may actually raise inflation because, you know, these things are always, they always have names that sound good. The infrastructure bill, Build Back Better. If we go back to the Obama program, remember that was touted as infrastructure support and increases in infrastructure. Larry, that was $850 billion of expenditures. Only 6% went to infrastructure. And we're going to see a similar thing here. If you take a look at the details of this, quote, infrastructure bill, you know, not very much is for infrastructure. There's a lot for supporting, you know, the failure that we know as Amtrak, you know, there's support for that. There's a lot for, you know, quote, green energy. And with all of these expenditures, I suspect that the actual cost will be a factor of 2 higher, or maybe even more than that, than what a competitive market price. Just putting aside whether we should be doing these things or not, we're going to end up paying probably 100% more than we could. So again, these programs are meant to sound good, but you know, look at the track record. The sad case is that
10 seconds, Professor. 10 seconds,
yep,
Professor.
Highways and bridges are failing. Why weren't those taken care of before? That's what government exists for.